And that leads to alienation, and that leads to emigration. Climate change, inequality, and corruption are their top concerns according to a UN Youth Survey. But they remain the most hopeful demographics among all of us, believing that they can change. That moral clarity that we talked about, that belief that they can change is gold. The youth bulge is also a factor that we need to be concerned about. The youth bulge is a demographic blip, and we are going through that blip. And if countries do not realize that there is that blip, and if countries do ignore the young generation, those societies stagnate. And if those countries, those societies embrace the young generation, they transform the world. So let me actually take a moment and talk directly to my young friends here. I had planted a question here. If you had to join one cause this year, which one and why? And you gave me so many good answers tonight. My God, your answers were amazing. They were mesmerizing. They were impressive. They were inspirational for me. And I wish each one of you could accept to be my mentor, and I will take your mentorship any day. But let me share. I've been an activist, and I've been among activists for probably about 40 some years. So let's talk about some experience. There's a gap right now between potential and reality. Most young people care, but few take part. There's high awareness among younger generations, but there is low participation. There is some disillusionment, not among you, you are here, so you have proven otherwise, but there is some disillusion, not with the values, but with institutions. Our young generation is overexposed to noise, but they're underexposed to credible information. And there's sometimes this fallacy that being active in social media and online expression always leads to civic impact. No, that is not always the case. And if you do not participate in changing the world, if the young generation doesn't, others decide for them. But you can, I showed you a barrage of a zillion of major events in the world. And all of them, or most of them, start with protests. But basically, engagement doesn't mean only protest. Doesn't mean that you have to go and create a bloody revolution somewhere. You can get involved, and I heard that so many times tonight. You can get involved politically by voting, by joining civic groups, by working policy research, and some of you are doing that, all of you are doing that, and my hat is off to you. By engaging in social activities, working in NGOs, mentoring, volunteering, organizing committees, and you're doing that, and my hat again is off to you. Digitally, you can use media and digital media and technology to expose problems or share data. And through professional organizations, when you go to work, applying the values that you've gained: integrity, transparency, service, dignity, teamwork, communications, all of those things actually within your career field will have an impact. Engagement is not a single form of activity. Engagement can take many forms. You have to decide who you are. You have to decide what your skill sets are. You have to know yourself and then engage. And you can engage locally. Start small, locally in your schools, in your churches, in your neighborhoods, in your university projects. You will leave an impact. But what actually works? Information, information, information. Learn before acting. Facts build credibility. Use networks, join groups, join create collective work, and be part of a team. Teamwork every day, every single day beats solo efforts. Communication. Practice writing clearly. Speak publicly. Practice that. Share ideas across platforms. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And use technology. Don't be like me. Learn how to use technology. Learn how to access big data, open data. These days, AI. Learn it as a powerful tool. Don't let others use it for you. Be a master of technology. Mapping, design, social media. There are so many other things that you can do. And persistence, persistence, persistence. I can't talk enough about this. Don't always be there only when the excitement is there. Don't always look for the viral moment, because in those viral moments, everyone is going to be there. The trick is the engagement. The true engagement is when being there when no one else is there, when other people are tired, you be there. That is where the impact comes from. But how actually change happens? Most social change happens very gradually, very slowly, more often backward than forward. Be ready for it. Don't give up. Every movement needs people at different skill sets. Every movement needs thinkers, doers, people who communicate, people who organize. There's so many different things. Again, know yourself, know your skill sets, be at the right place that fits you so that you can survive, you can sustain it. And expect, again, I mentioned that setbacks. Not everything is monotonically good. There are going to be failures, probably a lot more often than victories. But then, if you are there, if you're sustained, if you've survived, you're going to win. And integrity and teamwork, again, are worth more than visibility. Mm-hmm. So that brings us to, I took this slide from your LinkedIn page. You have done, and Women North Carolina has done an amazing work. It is not short of a miracle. You have just gathering this group year after year after year is not short of a miracle. And I know that I was talking to Mrs. Dehan last night. I want to express my most sincere gratitude to you, Mr. and Mrs. Lam. Dr. Lexback, I heard your name mentioned so many times tonight, but I also heard it last night, all of your support, and many others. As a fellow engineer, I would say that you're not only investing in a small community in North Carolina, you are investing in engineering the future of our society, the future of this country. Your impact, the impact of your investment is going to be felt by your children, by your grandchildren, and after that. And for that, thank you. And I also want everyone to join me and offer a standing ovation to our founder here, to Women's North Carolina founder. You are a hero, you are a mentor to all of us. She is the definition of persistence and integrity and hard work and communication. So, but when young people put their mind to it, they take the lead. Some wonderful examples. A student coder in Myanmar mapping arrests. In 2021, those of you who are familiar with what happened in Myanmar, basically the government shut down the internet and they started arresting, they started broad arrest across the country. And what happened, one student coder started mapping the arrests, where they happened and who they happened to. And very soon, within hours, numerous other coders joined them from within the country and outside the country. And the map that they created became the most credible tool for international organizations to intersect, to come in and to help. Iran, we talked about, and it is very well known, the Masa Amini's Women Life Freedom movement in 22. But one less known story is high school students at the time created basically a set of poetry nights in their homes. It was not a huge activity. It was not putting buildings on fire. It was not fighting soldiers. But that changed cultures in those houses. One small activity leads to a lot. A Nigerian influencer turning end SARS. SARS is basically, if I'm not mistaken, special anti-robbery squadrons in Nigeria that the government has created to basically suppress the opposition. Very brutal gangs. And she actually, through her memes, created a movement and created a fund, and those funds and that movement again made a huge difference in stopping Nigeria's government. In early 1900s, in the United States, a young man, actually a 23-year-old man named Louis Hine, picked up his camera, went around the country, went to the factories, and took pictures of child laborers. And his pictures alone changed labor laws forever in this country. And there are so many other stories on that, but I want to share something that is closer to my heart, to my homeland. I have participated in directly. Iran has had a long history. Our history, our story of a struggle is not different from the story of a struggle from Chile, from many other countries, but it is closer to my heart, my wife's heart, to our friend's heart, and I want to share that. It's a story of 120 years of struggle. It's a story of a struggle that started with my great-grandfather, and then my grandfather continued that, and then my father continued that. And then my wife and I were in the streets continuing that in 1979. And the current generation is continuing that. Very, very briefly, a very quick journey through Iran's history. In 1906, a Shah named Muzaffaruddin Shah at the time basically was faced with a huge movement, mostly led by young intellectuals, to change the parliament, to empower the parliament to act, to actually act like a parliament. Very similar to what we see in royal countries at the time, in Sweden and England and other places. And that movement won. Those young people won. Constitutional revolution was a success. However, that success only lasted 2 years, and the dreams shattered, and the son of that Shah, Muhammad Ali Shah, for those of you who know Iran's history, bombarded the parliament, arrested most of the members of the parliament, and that was the end of that era. A little 2 years of democracy, first experience in democracy in Middle East. And then the rest of it, basically a barrage of dictatorships in Iran in 1921, a coup d'etat by first Shah of Pahlavi, Reza Shah Pahlavi, basically started a period of, although some modernization, but a period of dictatorship, dark dictatorship in Iran. In 1941, that Shah was exiled in Iran by the Allies because he was getting close to or aligning himself with Hitler. And after 1941, his son, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, took power. However, in the turmoil of and in the aftermath of the abduction of the previous Shah, there was a period of awakening in democracy in Iran, probably about 10, 15 years. My father and mother were active in those periods as young people. A lot of other young people, again, a change by young generation, they developed democracy. It was a beautiful practice of democracy that eventually led to rise of a person, rise of what we call what his name, Dr. Muhammad Mossadegh, basically not only changed the history of Iran, but changed the history of Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Turkey, all of those countries. It was, if he had sustained, if he had survived, the world would be a different place. Middle East would be a different place. Africa would be a different place. And the rest of the world would have benefited from that. Unfortunately, in 1953, there was a coup d'etat against him. This coup d'etat was arranged by CIA and MI6 jointly through an operation named Operation Ajax. He was toppled. And the Shah was, again, came back to power. He had temporarily left the country. So after 1953 coup d'etat in Iran, there was a period of brutal suppression in Iran. SAWAK, basically a security organization, but also equipped with torture, equipped with spying on people, and very brutal, took reign. I remember as a university student sitting in the classroom, my wife remembers that when the secret police of SAWAK would come in, arrest people, arrest the students, and that was the end of we seeing those classmates. And then it was in that era that a lot of other organizations, young people, figured out that the fight against Shah had to be more radical. And I want to in particular refer to one organization, People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, 3 young men who got together, who started thinking about what to do and how to organize and how to change things, created an organization. That organization, despite the fact that tens of thousands of them have been killed, actually more than that, hundreds of thousands, and have been arrested, that organization remains the largest opposition organization in Iran, and that remains our hope for a future, democratic future in Iran. The picture on the right-hand side is our demonstration in front of the United Nations just 2 months ago. And that the activities of that organization and others led to 1979 revolution, a magnificent revolution in Iran, something basically young people, unarmed at the beginning, eventually there were some arms distributed to them, but mainly this was an unarmed revolution, mostly by young people. They threw out, they toppled one of the most brutal kingdoms in the world. But that hope again was hijacked, and it was hijacked by the current regime in Iran. It was basically fundamentalism in disguise. This was a fundamentalism that was allowed to grow under Shah's regime, and the hopes of the Iranian people at that time was hijacked. And there's so much to talk about them. I'll leave them for some other day. But from that point on, our dreams have never died. Our dreams have evolved. that fight continues by mostly young people. And remember, democracy is always, as Iran's history shows, is fragile. Democracy, like climate, is fragile. We need to rediscover it in every generation. Young generation, it is up to you to rediscover democracy again. So with that, I leave you with one last question. Think about it tonight, and that is, if every generation has a defining fight for dignity, what is yours? Thank you.